Thank you for joining us for this episode of That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. People like me, Michelle Kane of Voice Matters, and my wonderful co-host, Karen Swim of Solo PR Pro. Hi, Karen. Here we are again. How are you doing?
Here we are. Hello, Michelle. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. I guess it's safe to say as we're recording this, we're hitting our Midsummer Stride. I'm ignoring all the back to school things. It's ridiculous. Come on now. It's still hot and humid outside.
That's true. You know what? A lot of people are going to college in a couple of weeks, and I guess maybe some of the schools start. That's so weird because it feels like we shouldn't be here yet.
No, we're in the thick of summer. There's no doubting that, and I'm sure many of our listeners are. Hopefully, you're catching Olympic fever and enjoying the games and the fun that brings. But today we want to talk about different seasons of life, right?
Yeah.
As we're feeling all of that, and for many of us didn't start as solos. And some of us, when we're solos, we dip back into the working world. So we just want to talk a bit about, how does that work? If you're listening and you're thinking of forging ahead and becoming a solo, or if you've worked as a solo for a while, but, the prospect of, getting a job and, working for a company is just a better fit for you right now. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We just want to talk through how does that work? How might that look for you? I know for me, as I've shared before, my business is a recession baby, born around 2009, when one of the nonprofits that was employing me went severely nonprofit at the same time the economy was bleeding out jobs. So I LLC'd this thing, and somehow, thankfully, I'm still here, which is really weird. But here I am.
Love that. And yeah, I started my business around that time too. What I love today, though, is that it was common many years ago to consult, because we didn't even talk about solo or freelance, to consult when you were in between jobs. So if you were laid off or, and so it was not seen as the thing that you aspire to in your career. Right. It was a stopgap measure, and people sort of like, oh, you're a consultant. And it was almost code for you couldn't find work or you were out of work. And so I love that we have evolved to the point where being a consultant, being a solo can be the breadth of your career journey, or it can just be a step on your career ladder.
Oh, completely. And I know when I was looking into starting out, you want to make sure that you check some of the boxes. I mean, maybe some of you do. Maybe some of you just want to jump in and experience it.
Yeah.
Experience it full on. But I know for me, I had to ask myself some questions, right? It's like, am I self-motivated enough to work alone? How do I feel about not getting that direct deposit every 2 weeks? Well, that was answered for me. But if that's not, if you're not in that position, how does that feel? What would it take, financially to meet your needs when you're thinking about owning your business? Of, okay, taxes, all the subscriptions you would need, health insurance, all those fun things, all these things to take into account before you take that leap, depending on your personality.
Yeah, I jumped in the deep end of the ocean. But for me, I had lost a husband. So I was widowed and starting over, and I had taken time out of the workforce for a couple of years to care for him. Yeah. And when I went back to work after his death, I kind of realized that I just wasn't into the whole corporate thing anymore. I saw people taking themselves far too seriously and taking titles far too seriously. And I just thought, I don't want that. So it was kind of my attitude about work was changing. It wasn't necessarily that I hated the companies that I'd worked for, hated my job. It just, I'm like, is this it? Like, because I don't want that. And I don't want to, if this is the future, I'm just not into it. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because I think as a culture. I think many more people are arriving at that point now, especially, COVID sort of accelerated that. And because, let's face it, because of all the opportunities we have at our disposal, thanks to use of the internet, it is so much easier to go out on your own. So I think we have that luxury of taking a look at, uh, do I really want to, swim in this one lane, and you have to act a certain way, and
Yeah.
and like you say, jump through all these hoops, and it that in and of itself is kind of exhausting on a certain level to live up to some elements of corporate culture, and it can
Yeah.
be demoralizing in a way.
But I also want to point out that while solos and, MBO Partners, which full disclosure is a client of mine, does this study called the State of Independence in
Mhm.
America. And the 2024 study will be out in the fall, but it's the longest longitudinal study that about freelancers, solos, independent workers. And one of the things that they show is that control remains one of the top reasons that people leave their traditional jobs,
Mhm.
stop being W-2 employees to become self-employed, is that they want control. And
Mhm.
and that, not control in a like, I am the smartest, I know everything, I don't want anybody telling me what to do, but control over the types of work that you do, control over the skills that you
Yeah.
use, control over your growth. Let's face it, when you are in a corporate job, there's a lot of things that you can still do on your own. If you're interested, you can pay to develop yourselves in areas, but most of the time, we're really limited by our job descriptions and
Yeah.
what people think that we should know. And so you don't always get the exposure to other areas of the business as you do when you are the company and you get to play in different areas. And sometimes you discover interest and talents that you would not have discovered if you were just limited to, you can't do that because that's not your job. So, if
Yeah.
you are in public relations, maybe you have an affinity for accounting or, analytics, but it's not a part of your job. So you don't get to do that. And you just get to stay and and in-house PR people don't get to do everything either. Let's remember that as
Right.
solos, we get to do the depth and breadth of this job because we control that. So yeah, control remains one of the number one reasons. It's not even the money. Like a lot of people
Mm.
think, I'm going to become, start my own business because I'm going to be a millionaire. A lot of people actually do overall make less, but they're happier.
Yeah. No, it's very true. That's very true. And yet, for that same reason, and I think it's a combination of where you are in life, what your needs are in any given moment. It may be a time where you say, "Oh, but you know what? I just want to focus on one thing for one company. So I really want to go in-house again." Right? I want that assuredness. I don't want to have to deal with some of the admin tasks that I still handle, even though I might have farmed a number of them out. I like the 2 weeks of vacay that I'm made to take, it just depends, right? And
It does.
so we know we've seen solos hop in and out of the workforce, and there's absolutely no shame in that game. I mean, you do what's best for you, and what even more so, what lights you up? What's lighting you up right now? And that may
Oh,
be, maybe you miss working on a team. Maybe
yeah.
you miss that back and forth. And not to say we don't get that as solos, because we certainly do, depending on the project or the work. But there's definitely something to be said. And I think what most importantly is, just because you declare yourself a solo doesn't mean that you have to stick with that choice no matter what, just because you decided it however long ago. And,
Yeah.
you know,
You're 100% right. Again, in many, many years past, once you became a solo, there was this stigma attached to you being
yes,
unemployable. Like you
yes,
can't follow direction or work as part of a team. Today, those attitudes really have changed. And but I would say there are some things that you should think about.
mhm,
If you are in the workforce now and you're thinking of becoming a solo, I think the biggest thing is ensuring that you understand what the market is looking for from
Yes.
your profession. So that's number one, because you have to have some defined skill sets that people will value and want to pay you for. And I would say the second biggest thing is ensuring that you have a financial cushion.
Yeah.
So you can start to prepare to be solo even while you're employed by making sure that you build that cushion even more than you think that you need, because that is going to give you the flexibility to build your business in a very thoughtful, intentional way, and it'll take pressure off. If you start a business and you're under financial pressure, it does make it harder. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a lot of stress. And
Hmm.
if you're someone who is going the opposite direction, where you are thinking, you know what, I'm in the season of life where I really want to go back in house, I want a job. And it could be for whatever reason. The kids are leaving, to go off to college. Maybe it's a family dynamic change and you just want to work in house. You need to start to think about, where do I really want to be? Be intentional about your networking. Start to really be that giver where you are giving and not just taking. Don't be that person that hasn't talked to somebody for 22 months and then you're calling and saying, hey, I'm thinking about going back to work. I'd love to catch up.
Yeah.
Do you want to catch up or do you need something from me? So be thoughtful about your networking. Be thoughtful about looking at your skill sets in a way that would be attractive to employers. It's a great time if you feel like there's something that I'm seeing in job descriptions that maybe I feel that's a weakness. It seems to be one of the in-demand skills. Be aware that you do not have to be a perfect match to job
Right.
descriptions, because the true end to a job is networking your way into that position. So, start to think like a job seeker before you actually become a job seeker, because that's going to make your search a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's so true. And honestly, it's going to make you a better solo along the way. Anytime you get to strengthen your skills, is a good thing. And I know we've said this before, we should always be mindful of networking, you know, not in a I need this way, because not only is that unattractive, it's as obvious as anything. So don't be that person. But make it
Yeah.
a point. Yeah, make it a point to touch base with a few people, if it's every week or so. And look, do I do it as much as I should? Probably not.
I don't
But
think any of us, because
yeah,
we're tired, we're
yeah,
burned out, we're overwhelmed. And so I am definitely not suggesting becoming a full-time networker, but
yeah,
to really start to set that foundation for
yeah.
being intentional in your networking. So that doesn't mean taking
Agree.
meetings with everyone, but
No.
really start to think before you are ready to make that leap back in,
Yeah,
what would the role look like? What are the people that you want to work with? I believe that a lot of times people go back in house because they're excited either about a particular area of work that's being done and the impact that they can make,
yeah.
or it's because they get to work with a certain person. In the
Oh,
workforce, you tend to follow people, not titles. So if you have somebody that's like an inspirational, great leader who truly developed you, and that person goes somewhere else and they tap you to come, you'll go because you love working with that
yep.
person. So really start to think about that so that you are not flailing and just applying to every open job that's out there, but really think about where you want to be, what you want to accomplish, and what are the things that, as you said, Michelle, that really light you up. Because I still believe that we don't have to give that up in modern day times, that we can still do work that fulfills us. Whatever that work is, whatever
Yeah,
industry you're in, I just feel that we can still be fulfilled in our work. And sometimes for some people, they make a choice to do a job that lights them up because it provides them with the income and the benefits that they need to enjoy the rest of their life. I know people like that. They're in jobs and the job itself is doesn't really light them up in that way, but they like what it gives them and it fulfills
yes.
them. It allows them to live a fulfilled life. So that's okay. Like I'm here for it. I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, if
Yeah. I love that you made that point, because it's so true. We're fortunate that we do love what we do.
Yeah.
that we get to spend our days doing work that we enjoy. But there is totally something to be said for doing a job that's like, it's all right. But it frees you up, gives you what you need to do the things that you love to pursue. Like, oh, I don't know, hobbies. I'm still working on that one. Someone asked me the other day if I had hobbies, and I said, oh, I don't know. There's an old joke in PR. We don't have hobbies.
Yeah. Isn't that sadly true?
I have
Can we
interests, though. I mean,
We have
yeah.
interest. We do have interest. Far too often, though, even when you're in your interests, you find a way to bring PR into it. So,
But it's okay because we're strangely addicted to it. But well, hey, I think what you were saying just a bit ago is so true no matter which way you're going to go, right? If you're going to stay a solo, if you're looking to go in house somewhere or, you know, get that W-2, I think you just have to ask yourself, what do I want right now? What's best for me right now? And know that you have the freedom to pursue that. I think that's the most beautiful thing that we can say in this particular moment and climate. So we encourage you to do that thing and tell us. We want to hear your stories. Have you gone in-house recently? Have you made the switch to a solo? Do you have questions about experiences? We would love to take them up in a future episode. So please do visit soloprpro.com, check out the contact page, and let us know. And if you found value in this episode, which we hope you did, please share it around. Let us know. Hit us up with some reviews. That would help us a whole lot. And until next time, thanks for listening to That Solo Life.